right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We are very excited to be with you this evening to discuss the ACE application, especially since our fall deadline is arriving in just under 1 week. November 1st is that date to keep in mind. So to that end, and it's kind of we're getting into tonight, we are joined by a couple of current ACE teachers, Danny Strebar and Grace Paletta, who are here to offer a few insights and answer some questions about their own application experiences and just their time in ACE in general. So really excited for you guys to hear their perspectives. And then after they share a few words, we'll reserve the rest of tonight's programming for questions from all of you. So hope you brought some, hope you have some ready. We have some members of the ACE team. And of course, like I mentioned, our current teachers here to help you guys in any way we can. So when we get to that point in the program, I'm going to share some instructions on how to go about asking these questions. But for now, I just recommend that you keep your screens in speaker view so that you'll be able to see each panelist clearly through the event. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So we can kick things off with some interviews. So Danny and Grace, as kind of the stars of our show, we'll get started with you guys if that's okay. So if you guys just want to go ahead and share who you are, where you're from, what your ACE placement and teaching role is, and then maybe just share one highlight from the school year so far, if you don't mind.
I can kick it off. Hi, everyone. I'm Grace. I'm from Connecticut. I went to Cornell undergrad. This is my second year in ACE. I'm placed in Philadelphia. I'm teaching 4th grade right now, and they're a great group. I'm at St. Laurentius School. My principal was also an ACER, which is fantastic to have someone looking after me who has been through it all herself. And I would say one highlight this year would be probably connecting with some of my students from last year, from my first year. One of them, I saw her in the hallway the other day, and she was really shaken up. Seemed like she was crying. So I came over to her. We had a talk. She was like, "Miss Paletta, I'm failing social studies. Like, I don't know what to do." And we sat down, we talked it through. We talked about how she performed last year and how she did it when she did her best work. And now every time she passes me, she updates me on what her grade was on her last social study assignment, which is amazing and just a highlight of my day every time I see her.
That's amazing. Thank you, Grace. Danny, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Danny Strebar, ACE 29 from Oakland, California. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm teaching high school English. Let's see, one memory. I'm going to cheat a little bit and go with the calendar year, not academic. Last spring for Pi Day, we were having kind of a charity pie toss. So students could pay for charity and bid to throw pies at some of their favorite or least favorite teachers. And I was luckily voluntold to do that. The one thing that they did not tell me is that it was not just one person with one pie. So during lunch, I sat there for about 20 minutes with students getting a lot of entertainment out of just throwing pies at my face. But I loved every second of it, and they got some really great pictures of it too.
Oh, let's go. That's amazing. Yeah, we don't normally condone cheating here at ACE, but for that story, Danny, I think we'll allow it. That's fantastic. Well, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And like I mentioned, we have a couple of members of the ACE staff here on tonight as well. So myself, my name is Tyus. I was a member of ACE 27, so just graduated this past May. I was teaching middle school English in San Antonio. And then Jess and Mike are here on as well. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves also?
Yeah, my name's Jess. I work for the team. I was ACE 26, so I finished up teaching in June 2021. I taught 2nd grade in Fort Worth, Texas. They, like Grace, were also a great group, highs and lows all around in elementary, but I taught 2nd grade there for 2 years, and now on the team I help recruit. I help kind of with just the operations of running retreats and running our summer session and things back home. So I live and work at Notre Dame. We're all in South Bend here on the team, and it's been great. So the joy of this mission is now that we get to just like bring other people into it, and so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jess. So we can go ahead and get moving on with our questions. We got just a couple of questions for our ACE teachers, Danny and Grace. So we'll get started with those. So our first question is just about this path to ACE. So if you guys don't mind talking about just what led you to ACE and why you decided to apply and then ultimately join the program.
You were a little in and out there, Tyus. I think it's what led me to ACE. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay, sweet. So I was no problem. I was an education minor in college, and so took a few classes here and there, and started to become really passionate about the classroom and areas of need in education. And so most like everybody who was around me thinking about education, my mind went straight to Teach for America. It was the only program that I had known about at the time. So I was actually applying for Teach for America and ended up calling my cousin to tell her that I was going to do this program. I'm very excited. And she said, okay, wait, before you say yes, you have to talk to my best friend from high school. She does this program at Notre Dame. It's very similar, and she's loved it. So got connected with her, and through talking to her about the community aspect of ACE and the time spent on campus over the summer and just how vibrantly she spoke about her own classroom, I knew that I was being drawn to this program a little bit more. So went on the website, emailed Bridget McDermott. She was super helpful, super flexible, and helped me get the application going along. And here I am. And I couldn't be happier for how it turned out.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Danny, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, I was an education major in college, and I had a fantastic opportunity to work in a few different public schools throughout COVID for my student teaching. And as I was starting to wrap up, junior year, going to senior year, I started to reflect on what next steps would be. A lot of times when you're an education major, you tend to acclimate into the public school districts kind of from where you graduate. But I just wanted to see, maybe there are some opportunities back home in Chicago. So I was just kind of looking around, and one day I was on Zoom with one of my friends who just happened to mention ACE. And I thought, wait a second, I went to Catholic school growing up. I would love a way to try to give back, to get into Catholic schooling. And it honestly, it sounded perfect. I was like, how did I not know about this? So after doing some research, I actually sent an email to Mike Comunello, also in this call. And the rest is just kind of history from there. Once I learned about ACE and the mission about it, it was just so enticing, and I really didn't think that I'd be able to pass up on the opportunity to apply.
Oh, thank you, Danny. Yeah, glad you didn't pass up. So appreciate that, both of you. And so one more question before we open it up to our guests tonight. Just kind of as we're getting into application season, getting close to the deadline, what is one thing that you wish you would have known about ACE before you applied?
I would say one thing that I wish I had known more about was practicum for summer. So our first summer that we are at Notre Dame, we have something called practicum, where after I think 2 weeks of being in the classroom, you actually get to go to a local school that is around your placement area. So I was in a 4th grade classroom the entire summer that I was at Notre Dame with a group of 3 other ACERs and a mentor teacher. And at the beginning of the summer, the mentor teacher is at the front of the classroom. We're watching, taking notes, taking it all in. And then we actually get the chance to teach a classroom and get immediate feedback, taking smaller chunks of the day, so that it kind of eases you into being able to lead your own classroom when you get there in the fall. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I've never done this before. Now suddenly I've got all these eyes staring at me, but you're like, okay, I've been through this. I did it all summer. And now it's just, I have total control over my own classroom. So I think that was probably what I wish I knew a little bit more about before going into ACE.
Wonderful. Thank you, Grace. Danny, what's one thing that you wish you knew before you applied?
Sure. One thing that I was really pleasantly surprised by that I wish I knew is just how active and present all of the ACE bubble is, especially the ACE team. Whether it was during the summer where we're taking our course load on campus, or while we're out at our placement sites, I was just astounded with how much support there is, as long as you reach out, through whether it's through pastoral care or just anyone else in the program, regardless of whether or not you had a class with them or anything like that. Everyone in ACE is just so passionate about the mission, and just they want to see you succeed. So just how many resources we have.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you a lot, both of you. Those are great. So yeah, so those are all the questions I have for our two ACE teachers. So now, like I said, we got the application coming up. We want to help answer any of your questions that you have to help you guys succeed as much as you can on the application. So we're going to open this up for a live Q&A from our guests. So how this will work is if you guys just raise a Zoom hand, Jess or I will call on you. And then once we call upon you, we'll ask you to unmute yourself. And then you can actually ask your question either to us, to the teachers, to whoever you want. So we can go ahead and get started with that. Yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for putting this together. This is some excellent information from you, Grace and Danny, especially going through the program. One thing I'm interested from both of your perspectives, sounds like the ACE teachers and the ACE, folks are incredibly present in your mentorship. How did you find at your placement school that was happening from folks that maybe weren't in ACE, right? So those teachers that have that real world experience, are they partnering with you as well?
Yeah, I can respond to that one. Patrick, I think that's a really fantastic question and a super important one to get some background knowledge on as well. So obviously I can't speak for every single, school or community, but at least for my personal experience, there's a history of ACE teachers being at my school. So there is already that partnership. Administration and the faculty and the student body as a whole, they understand, what our role is, how we come in. And just they recognize that, for the most part, we are brand new teachers. So they really emphasize that support. For my school personally, they have a great relationship with the leadership here in ACE. A few administrators have, taken the REMIC leadership program, but never once at my school have I ever felt like, I was just treading water or that I was not supported on either front.
Yeah, I would have to say a similar thing for my school. And also in ACE, you get assigned a mentor teacher at your school. And so in that way, someone's always looking out for you and answering questions and things like that. And I love my mentor teacher. I never thought I'd be best friends with like a 65-year-old woman, but she's fantastic. And my principal also, she'll come in and observe me. She's supposed to observe us for ACE. I think that truth be told, it's different for every single school. I think Danny and I have gotten really lucky. We have a lot of support on our side, but I do think that there are always going to be resources within your school. You just have to seek them out and find who's going to be the best mentor for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you both for that answer. Fantastic and great to hear.
Thanks for your question, Patrick. That was great.
What else we got? Yeah, Nora.
Hi, thank you guys for doing this. I guess this is a pretty basic question, but I'm wondering what piece of advice you would give prospective applicants this year.
One piece of advice that I would give prospective applicants. Let's see. Okay. I got to think about this one. I would say, be excited about the challenge. I don't think that ACE is the easiest thing in the world. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not the easiest thing in the world. There are challenges, there are days where it's really hard and you've got kids screaming in your ear. You've got I've got a kid that just won't stop farting in my class. It's just it's just a bunch of little things that add up. But especially after having a year down and looking back over my own growth from the start of the year to the end of the year, I would have never imagined that I could have overcome so many challenges, could have found so many incredible mentors, could have made such incredible relationships with students. I think that the challenge of ACE can sometimes be intimidating, but if you're willing to embrace it and think about how much you are able to grow in this position, it's like the greatest blessing in the world.
Yeah, and on a similar note for that one, I just really want to emphasize how, whether you have a ton of educational experience or this is your first time in the classroom, you're going to do well, and that there is no such thing as a perfect teacher. I know that every single one of you have qualities that will help you succeed in the classroom. And it's so easy to have that anxiety going in. But like everyone is so aware that like it may be the first time in the classroom and that this is a room for growth and that we are here primarily for the kids and to make sure that they succeed. So one piece of advice that I would have for all of you is just to treat yourself with grace throughout this application process, but should you join ACE throughout the 2 years as a whole, because like Grace said, it is a really, really challenging experience. But honestly, it is one of the best decisions that I ever made, because even though I'm challenged every day, it is such a blessing to be able to walk into my classroom and to have like 30 faces just either saying hello or telling me about their weekends or the embarrassing thing they did. It's just such an enriching experience. So just enjoy this time in the application process.
I think also want to make sure the floor is open to like the perspectives of Danny and Grace, but also just like maybe more logistical questions. And so as someone on the team who does maybe more of the logistics of the application, Nora, I would say, don't forget to be like your authentic self. And what I mean by that is that like we are explicitly a teacher formation program. And so it's okay if you're showing us like what you've done that you believe is transferable, but you haven't been a teacher before. It's okay if your essays are like personal and you're showing us the best side of you possible, but also like the side of you that is you. You're not trying to put on like a persona that you're not. As someone who's applied to many things in my life, I think it's tempting to want to show the program the version of you that you think the program wants to see. But the thing about ACE is that we're like a matching process. And so the better we know you guys on a really real level, the better we can make a match with a school community, with students that you'll serve down the line. And so I think it's just important to really just be true to yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Grace, I can't believe that that the farting kid didn't make your highlights for this year, but there's still time. There's still time. All right, we can open up some more questions. Who's got the next one? Yeah, Colin, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
Hi, I was just curious of what ACE spirituality looks like while you're kind of in formation before you start teaching and then during it.
So we're explicitly like a Catholic school teacher program, but in no way does that mean that one has to be Catholic to be a school teacher in our program. I think that can maybe be a misconception. It's important to us, I think, to have a community that is like open to growing. So it's important that like everyone really kind of wants to like become a better version of themselves, to really encounter those around them, their students throughout the process. And we have daily mass over the summer. We have retreats throughout the sequence of 2 years, lots of opportunities for that spiritual formation, for that development in the Catholic faith. And then that exploration, I guess, for someone who wouldn't be of the Catholic faith, but who wants to maybe learn more about themselves and their own spirituality through the process. We also have just a ton of priests who are chaplains of ACE, who visit our retreats and who are just there to kind of offer like another perspective and to really be like a spiritual director of sorts during the program as you would want. People like myself, Mike, Joe, who are here, we kind of serve in a more like a mentor capacity to our teachers as they go throughout the program. And oftentimes I'm having conversations about lesson plans, but also about like where God's calling somebody after ACE. And so I think in that way, the spiritual formation is you wrestling with what it means to be a teacher for you and to serve communities not like yourself. And we do have people that kind of exit ACE and they maybe accept religious vocations. And we also have people that exit ACE and they just like a better mother, teacher, friend, roommate, sister, person of faith because they had those 2 years. So that sounds like a cop-out answer. I really do think like it is kind of what you make it and what it means to you. But the resources I think are endless.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, Cambria, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for all the info so far. My question is around like the first year to the second year, and I'm curious to hear what the ACE teachers would say about the lesson planning and the teaching in the first year, and then jumping to the second year, and how that prepared and like made things easier for the second year, or how like the first year compared to the second for y'all.
I actually hopped on the phone with Danny before this call because just wanted to check in with him. And I told him that it almost feels like a different job here too. It is really like the amount of experience and the amount that you learn the first year is just unbelievable. So you're coming into the second year kind of just knowing the things that you didn't know, which is huge. So I wouldn't say I'm definitely not a fully formed teacher yet. There's still a lot that I'm learning and a lot of things that it's trial and error, but you kind of, the first year, it's a lot of just kind of finding your footing, finding what works for you and learning the process of lesson planning. And maybe it's taking a little bit longer the first year, but second year, you're able to kind of apply that knowledge from last year and be able to use some of your creativity a bit more in the classroom, which I think is really great. So it's definitely a steep learning curve. I will say that, but it has really paid off this year.
Yeah, and one thing that I can add on to that as well, especially having a bit of an education background from undergrad studies, I thought, okay, I can jump in. It's going to be great. I'll have these fantastic lessons, and no. Like I tried to plan so much, and none of it worked because you can have the perfect lesson objectively, but every time you go into a room, even if you teach 3 sections of the same course, you have different kids in there. They learn different ways. You may teach different ways. So I think that first year is really just about seeing the successes and the failures and knowing that you can grow from that. Because, at the end of the day, the content is going to be hit. The students are going to be better with you in the classroom, but you also you need to get the reps. It's like when you're practicing a sport. If you do it once, you may not master it, but by your second, third, fourth go around, you're going to be a lot more comfortable. And I think ACE does a fantastic job in the curriculum too of helping scaffold that, where in your first year, they really focus on lesson planning and the day by day. Whereas once you have a year under your belt and you're more comfortable in your school community, in your personal identity as a teacher, then the courses tend to go more towards unit and course planning. So once you've had a run through, you can start to see what the big picture might look like and how you can channel that creativity, like Grace said, to really get some thematic ideas in there.
I have 2 thoughts I'll add to briefly. The first is that I was a business major who didn't even minor in education, tutor, really just had no formal background in that or really experience in that. In undergrad, I had maybe more of a relational coaching, summer camp mentoring type experience that allowed me to know I wanted to try teaching, but I didn't really even know what a lesson plan was. I mean, I guess everyone knows what those 2 words probably mean. It wasn't a new concept, but I had no idea about anything teacher related. And it turned out okay. But to Grace's point about it feeling like a new job, I think for me, it's really special to return back to the same community in the sense that the first year, you're adjusting to post-grad life, you're adjusting to a new city, a new commute, a new bedroom, all the things that come with transition. And those are really exciting things and really poignant things. And to this day, Lover by Taylor Swift came out when I was in my first year of ACE. And I'll always associate the 35 freeway in Fort Worth, with that album. It's very vivid. But when you return back, it was really nice to just kind of know your way around the school and some of the families already. And my second graders were third graders. I had new students, which kind of kept it interesting. But I knew the teacher's lounge. I just knew how to be and exist in that space in year 2. And I think all those knowns, despite the classroom maybe being kind of an unknown because it's a new year with new students, help you feel really rooted too, and really helps you develop a sense of place. So I think that's a really unique part of ACE is that you don't change spots. You kind of return home.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Cambria. We got time for a couple more. So go ahead, please. Yeah, Helen, go for it.
Hi guys, thanks so much for doing this. I had a question because I'm just about done with my application and very excited to hand it in. I couldn't help but notice that there's one section where it's asking you to kind of list your preferences for what grades you want to teach, what types of schools you want to teach at, whether it being a high school or middle school, stuff like that. But anyways, I kind of had a question for you guys because I don't know what maybe your discerning process looked like when you were kind of coming up with that decision, because I know that I want to be a teacher and I know that I really want to do this program, but kind of the the feeling of this not necessarily being a permanent thing, but being in a role for 2 years at the same school with the same kind of like aged students. I was just kind of wondering if you guys had any advice about kind of deciding, you know, what age group might be the best fit for you.
I definitely struggled with that too. I remember looking at that and just like literally rolling a dice and thinking, okay, hope that one works. I did put down elementary school. I think that you should also be putting a lot of trust into the people looking at the applications, because they've been doing this for a long time and they get to know you personally. They don't just look at your application, they have conversations with you, and what you put down is not necessarily what you're going to be in, because they're through conversations they'll be able to place you in a school and in a grade level that is best suited for you, even if you don't know it for yourself at the moment. So I think putting trust in your mentors, and it does seem like an intimidating thing. I know that like permanent feeling where while you're in ACE, you're going to be in this grade level the whole time, but let me just tell you, it flies by. It really, really flies by. And wherever you are, you'll get an unbelievable experience.
Helen, I think like a tangible difference that could be helpful. And again, like as someone who helps on the placement side of things, I'll echo Grace that like I, for example, had kind of mentored other students similar to my age, like peer mentoring in Notre Dame. And so I wanted to do high school because I was close to, you know, my fellow peers. And so I thought like older high school was the most transferable. As a business major, didn't have like a lot of content knowledge. I'm sure I probably could have taught high school math. Ended up with elementary for reasons that I don't know, because I was an ACE teacher at the time and not on the team. But I truly like developed a love of teaching reading and of phonics. And for me, I think like my organizational skills really helped manage a classroom of little people who don't have that executive functioning. And I actually found ways that my business major and like presentation and all those things translated. That's my little story. But what I was going to get to is the tangible difference is I would think about like teaching the same lesson a couple of times a day, you know, really content specific versus having more of a self-contained elementary school classroom where we're with the same kids all day, but the content changes. That's one thing that is a really big difference. And then I would think about just like siblings that you have, other experiences in your life where you've maybe felt like most yourself interacting with different age groups, because there is maybe like more of like a, at times kind of maternal or like family kind of nurturing nature to elementary. Not to say it's without its discipline and its rigor. I think high school can offer like a different kind of mentorship, like writing letters of rec, talking about, you know, heavier things, coaching. So the school context is broader than just like your 30-minute lesson. It's like the other opportunities that you might be passionate about. So I would encourage you to think about those things.
Great. Thank you, guys. So we have time for one more question. So Marco, looks like you got your hand up. Close us out with a good one, man. What you got?
Sure. A logistical question. Can you teach more than one subject if you're teaching a high school at the high school level?
Yes. So I can take this one. Yeah, so you will have one subject that's kind of your main focus. And so as you're taking classes, you'll take classes that are tailored to that subject. So for me and Danny, it was English. So that would be kind of where your grades and stuff come in. But based on your school placement, based kind of on the context of where you're at, there definitely are opportunities for other classes. So I taught middle school English in San Antonio, like I said, but also just because where my school needed help, I also taught 8th grade math and religion. That's just something my principal asked me to do. So yeah, that was a little nerve-wracking when I found out the math part, but you know, we made it work and it was great. And you know, I learned right along with the kids. But yes, there definitely are opportunities to teach more than one subject at once.
I saw Tyus teach, can confirm he killed it in 8th grade math. I would say we have like, so the reason we have like a focus area is because we're a master's program. We're also a licensure program. So at the end of the day, you just need to have like a major load of content to get that licensure into content. That licensure is going to happen in math, science, social studies, or ELA. But like I have a teacher right now that I supervise in Tampa who teaches physics, and that's his licensure, but he's getting like high school science. But he's getting reps teaching like engineering because that's an elective that they have, and he studied that and that was important to him. People have done like a computer science elective in the past. You can see how like social studies could also have maybe like a gov, econ, civics thing to it. So that's really where that matching process comes in, is us knowing about you and what you want and what you could be really good at helps us find that like maybe more niche placement, because you can imagine Catholic schools don't just need like one perfect teacher. They often need a lot of things. So if we can serve them in a way that's more piecemeal and give them what they need and what you want, we try to do that as much as we can.
Thank you for your question, Marco. So that's going to do it for all the questions we have tonight. If you didn't get the chance to have your question answered, or if you think of any new questions as you continue working on your application, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be sending a follow-up email within the next couple of days so to make sure you have, my contact information, the rest of our team's contact information, if you don't already. So please, we want to answer as many of your questions as we can. So don't think that opportunity ends tonight. But before we do close out, Jess, just one last thing. Is there any final advice you'd like to give to anyone who's kind of on the fence or considering applying to ACE?
A lot of pressure. I would say, like, I know I mentioned this earlier, but I was a business major, and I use that line a lot to kind of show that I wasn't like a teacher by preparation. But what I mean by that is that it wasn't a typical career for many of my peers. ACE wasn't the thing that people next to me were looking at. A lot of my friends were going into consulting, and there was a part of me too that just like never saw myself as a teacher, and I was nervous. And all I can say right now is, if you're on the fence, you're here on this webinar for a reason. And I think like there's truly never harm in just opening a door. Your application to ACE is going to help you learn about it, discern whether it's right for you. You're not committing to anything right now. All you're doing is putting your name in the hat and giving yourself the opportunity. So I would just encourage you to open as many doors as you can, specifically this door, and let us show you kind of what's on the other side, and then let that be a two-way conversation. But if you don't start an application and you don't submit one, then there's no chance that you can give yourself the opportunity to one day say yes. So I think kind of why not?
Great. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Grace, Danny, and Jess for joining us. So we just really appreciate your time. And I just want one final reminder, fall deadline is due November 1st. Don't forget that date. And hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening.